Hey friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I'm so excited to have you here because I'm going to be unboxing my January 2024 release from Pretty Pink Posh. Now I do receive the bundle a little bit early so I can help with sneak peeks and coming up with projects for today's blog hop and next week's Instagram hop. So let me walk you through all of the different items that are in the new release. So I'm going to start with the confetti and shaker beads. We have this adorable Valentine hearts mix with red, pink, and white clay hearts, and then the colorful hearts mix, which is a rainbow of adorable colors. We also have some St. Patrick's Day, like this Lucky Charms mix. How cute are those rainbows, clovers, and little leprechaun hats? And then we also have the St. Patrick's Day confetti mix. For the new shaker beads, we have the Sweetheart shaker beads, again, pink, red, and white. And then my favorite, I think, is the Lucky Day shaker beads with two shades of green, gold, and white. So lots of options for our upcoming winter and spring holidays. One of our new stamp sets is the Sentiment Strips Valentine. So again, coordinates so well with the existing Sentiment Strips dies and other stamp sets. We have the Lucky stamp set and its coordinating dies, adorable little St. Patrick's Day, but also just some great sentiments for any time of the year. We have Sweet Chocolates, which I think is going to coordinate so wonderfully with last year's chocolate candy stencil. We have Decorative Hearts, which is very similar to the pumpkins, where you can layer and have different types of hearts. We have Valentine Train, which is so fun. I love the little cart of hearts. And another adorable cupcake set, this time the Valentine cupcakes. I can't wait to color in that cute little puppy. We have some new hot foil plates. We have Lucky along with a coordinating Lucky Shadow die set and also in Be Mine. And what's great is that you can use the shadows to cut out the hot foil, but if hot foiling is not your jam, you can just get the shadow die set and be able to layer the sentiments with the shadow. We have the XOXO border, which also has this extra heart, so you could do some layering and create really awesome borders on your cards. We have some really large, awesome die sets, like this big Valentine cupcake. I'm so excited for the pierced hearts. This is very similar to the snowflakes die that came out in the winter, and the heart cover plate, very similar to the trees. So definitely going to be making a shaker card, so just stay tuned in this video. We also have a new eyelets die set. This is the eyelet hearts. There's 4 different sizes that stack perfectly together, and a new shaker die. This is called the Shamrock Shaker, but you can use the shamrock on its own. You don't have to create a shaker with it. We also have some adorable stitched shamrocks and stitched hearts, which just have lots of different designs and very basic shapes, which are going to be great for cards. And then this beautiful die set called the Elegant Banner Heart, which has a very intricate die and different sentiments that you can die cut into the banner. Now let's get to the stencils. We have a few different stencils here. We have the single layer Valentine words, and then the 2-layer half heart stencil, as well as a 2-layered shamrock stencil, and our 2 layers layered heart lattice stencil. So excited to add these to our Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day products, and I can't wait to create with you for today's blog hop, which you can find that link down below in my description in case you found this video on my YouTube channel first. I've created a Valentine's Day shaker card, so let me go ahead and jump into creating the card. Now this is a different day, as you could tell by my change of sweater, but I'm going to be using the heart cover plate. I'm going to be using some sentiments from the Decorative Heart stamp set, as well as the Sentiment Strips Valentine set, which I'll grab a little bit later. I also have the colorful hearts mix, and I'm going to be doing some hot foiling with the Be Mine hot foil plate and the Be Mine shadow. So I'm going to start with my distressing. So I want to create a very colorful cover of my shaker card and then have the inside of my shaker card be a white background. So I'm cutting a piece of watercolor cardstock larger than A2 in size because the heart cover plate perfectly cuts out an A2 cover. And I'm going to use the colors from our colorful heart mix to pick out distress oxides in my stash. So you can see we have a nice rainbow to choose from here. I have my blending brushes that I use for distress oxides and have them coordinated with the colors that I've chosen. So I'm going to start, well, it looks like I'm starting with pink, but I actually want pink to be more in the middle of my background, and I like to start from the corners. So I'm going to change my mind right here, and I'm going to grab first squeezed lemonade and my yellow blending brush, and I'm just going to wipe off any extra ink that's been left on the blending brush on my microfiber cloth. And I apologize for my shaky camera. I'm a very aggressive ink blender, so I do apologize if you get a little dizzy watching. But I started with adding that yellow color to the corner, and then I'll move into green, which is cracked pistachio, and I'm just going to blend about an inch, maybe an inch and a half of that color, trying to make sure I stay to about a third of the card with these two colors, since I have 6 colors in total. And what I do is I add my next color, and then I bring back the previous color and go back and forth until I'm happy with the amount of color I have and the blend between the two colors. So after cracked pistachio, I'll bring out my blue color, which is Salvaged Patina, and I'm just going to repeat that process. So now I'm going about halfway, since this is my third color, and I'll add the blue, go back and forth until I'm happy with the blend, and then move into purple, which is Wilted Violet. Then I'll bring in pink, which is Kitsch Flamingo, and finally I'll do the other corner in dried Marigold for my orange. I really wanted the pink and purpley colors to be a bit more vibrant rather than the yellow and green that usually happens in the center of a rainbow on a card. So I'll keep going back and forth until I'm happy with the blends, and then I'll go ahead and clean up my glass board, and I'll grab my heart cover plate die and run that through my die cut machine. Now there are some parts that I could cut out with my wire cutters, but I'm not going to worry about that today because I just want the frame that's created from this die. So I'll probably save all those extra little hearts for a future project, but I'm just going to use the frame for today. Now that the frame is die cut, I'm going to go ahead and put away my die, but I want to add a little bit of splatter. So I'm grabbing my bleed proof white fine art paint, and I'm just picking up some of that paint, putting it onto my glass board and adding water until I get a consistency of the paint that I like, and I'll go ahead and splatter this around my background, just making sure that there's a really nice pretty splatter. I thought about doing some watercolor, but I thought white would be really pretty and just kind of enhance those colors a little more. So I'll go ahead and clean up my desk, and then I have a piece of white cardstock that I trimmed to be, I believe, A2 in size. I actually think it's a little bit smaller because I didn't want it to show outside the edges of my A2 cover plate, and I don't like having to worry about 2 layers matching up perfectly. So a way I avoid that is just to make it slightly smaller than the cover. So even if I don't get the cover lined up perfectly on top of it, you're not going to see any of the excess paper around the edge. So I'll go ahead and use my magnets, as my glass board is magnetic, to keep my white paper and cover plate, my rainbow of colors here, in place while I add the sentiments through the windows. These will be on the inside of my shaker card. So I'm using different sentiments from my 2 stamp sets. I have the first is the Decorative Heart stamp set, and then I'll also grab in some additional sentiments from the Sentiment Strips Valentine set, and I stamped them all with a red ink. I wanted it to look like the red that you see on Sweetheart candies. So once those are done, we'll go ahead and start building our shaker together. So I went ahead and trimmed a piece of acetate that is, again, slightly smaller than A2 in size, so I don't have to worry about it being perfectly aligned. And I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive on the back side of my shaker cover, so that heart cover plate that I die cut. And I also added a few strips in between the hearts to make sure that that acetate is really nice and secure to the back of my shaker window. So once I get all of the release papers peeled up, I'll go ahead and add that acetate by doing my best to line it up so it is centered and I don't have any excess pieces of my acetate sticking out. It's looking good so far, so I'll go ahead and grab some thick foam adhesive so that way I can have plenty of room for my shaker bits. This particular foam adhesive is my Heffy Doodle. You know I love my Pear Blossom press, but I'm going to go ahead and use up what I have left of my Heffy Doodle foam adhesive as I don't need it for any of my Pear Blossom press products right now, as this is not a light up card. So I'm going ahead and adding foam adhesive around all four sides of my background as well as through the middle. So I'm going to have two different shaker windows or panels on this one card. I'll go ahead and open up my confetti mix. Again, I love these bright, fun colors, and I'm going to add quite a bunch to my background. So I'll go ahead and kind of divvy up into two different areas so I can add a little extra, make sure they look even, and it will be easy to line up my front of my panel to the background. So I'm going to use the grid on my glass board to make sure my background is straight and that I get it centered onto the back side of my shaker panel. And I did a pretty darn good job. You can see my sentiments perfectly in the hearts and everything seems to be shaking and nothing is leaking out anywhere. So I have an A2 card base out of some sturdy white cardstock, and it is a side folding card as this is going to be a card on the horizontal in a landscape instead of a portrait. So I'll go ahead and add some sturdy double-sided adhesive to the back of my shaker panel and adhere that to my card base. So now that my card is pretty much assembled, let's move on to creating the sentiment for the card. I'm going to open up the Be Mine hot foil plate, and I'm going to use my Glimmer hot foil machine to use a red hot foil onto some white cardstock. So I'm just going to peel off the plate so I know where to trim my white cardstock, which will also help me know how much hot foil I will need as well. So I'll go ahead and grab my Spellbinders tool to cut my hot foil, and then I have some large scissors to cut my cardstock. So just using the plates as a guide so I know how far I need to cut, and I'll use my foil blade here and run it through my opening of the plastic top to my Spellbinders cutting tool, and then again those large scissors for my paper. I'm not too worried about straight lines. I'm just trying to make sure I have large enough paper and foil pieces. So while my hot foil machine is heating up, I went ahead and cut the shadow out 3 times, the Be Mine, so I have those to glue behind my hot foiled sentiment so it has a nice sturdy base and it's easier to attach to my card. So here you can see I didn't do the very best lining up my paper to the hot foil, but you know what? It's not going to matter because I will glue those white pieces that I die cut for the Be Mine and you won't be able to tell. So I went ahead and die cut my hot foil sentiment out. Here's the bee and the mine, and I'll go ahead and grab my liquid adhesive to glue these layers together. I use a pretty thin white cardstock when I use hot foil, so having 4 layers is going to make it sturdy like an extra thick piece of cardstock, and it will just be easier to adhere down to the card without warping or making sure that it's gonna fall off or anything. So I'm gluing all those layers together for the mine, and then I will move on to the bee and make sure that it's about as thick and stable as I need it to be for the card. I'm pretty happy with the 4 layers, so now let's figure out how I want to put them onto the card. I thought about doing them at an angle like this, but I wanted to be able to read all the sentiments, so I'm just going to go straight along the center of the card. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'll use the same liquid adhesive to glue this sentiment down. To make sure my sentiment stays centered, I'm just going to pick up one piece at a time, add my adhesive, and then glue it back as close as I can to the same spot to where I had it as kind of a dry run. And then once I have the first word glued down, I'll go ahead and glue down the second word, making sure it has good spacing and that it looks centered, that there is the same distance on the left side of the word be as there is on the right side of the word mine. I'll give it some time to dry, as I know sticking to distressed oxide cardstock and acetate sometimes just needs a little bit of time to make sure it's really adhered before I do anything with the card. I wanted to add a little bit of bling, but there's already so much color on this card that I decided to get my Pretty Pink Posh 4mm droplets, these are the small size, to add onto my background. I'm going to use some clear adhesive from scrapbook.com and a jewel pickup stick to place these little droplets around the card. And once I'm happy with how many I have and their placement, I'll go ahead and pick them up with the jewel pickup stick, add a little bit of liquid adhesive, and then place the I guess it's not a jewel, but the droplet back down onto the card. And I love that it's picking up the color through the droplet. Here's a close-up look of my first Valentine's Day card with the brand new Pretty Pink Posh release. I hope you'll join us over on my blog for today's blog hop for a chance to win some gift card money. And again, you'll find a link to my blog down below in the description. But let me know in the comments which of the new products you're most excited about. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!